Facebook Live. Today I'm going to talk about building resilience in children and how give you 2 tips on how you can do that. I'll also talk about how you can, what are the components of resilience that have been highlighted by researchers into resilience for everybody, but particularly in children. There is an awful lot of pressure and stress in place around children these days, and teens, particularly, they're coming up to final year exams and that. And in general, life in general, can be very stressful for people and children. And we can't protect them from that, not fully. We'll do our best, but we can't protect them from everything. They're exposed increasingly, I think, to greater things than I was when I was a child, certainly. But even my own children, and I see in my grandchildren, they're getting increasingly exposed to more and more as the generations go down. But we certainly can teach them coping strategies to help with what they're facing in life. And these can be used to help build resilience. So, resilience isn't something that we were born with, but it is something that we learn, and we learn it not when times are good, but we actually learn it while facing problems and dealing with life's challenges. So that is something, I think it's not something you teach while things are going smoothly. It's actually it is something that they learn while facing challenges. But there are certain things, strategies that you can put in place that when they are faced with difficulties, they'll use those strategies, and by doing that, then they learn resilience. So what are the components that researchers have outlined that make up resilience? So there are seven C's. They're called the 7 C's of resilience. You can look them up. I have detailed them more in the blog. I'm not going to go through them this morning because I'd be here all day. But the 7 components, they were first put out, I believe, by Dr. Kenneth Ginsberg. He's a child pediatrician and researcher. And the 7 components were competence. So they want to feel competent. We all want to feel that. We want to feel competent in our life. Confidence. We all want to have more of that. Connection. That's vital. That's one of the ones I've picked out now today that I'm going to talk about today. Character. Contribution. They want to be able to feel they're contributing. And coping skills. And control. So we all want to feel more in control of our lives. But these were found to be the 7 C's of resilience. So let's get into them. If you want to find out more about those, just head over to the blog at www.deborahbyrnepsychologyservice.com. I do outline them in more detail over there. So the first thing I'd say to you is always, and this is outside of the tips, is that if you want a child to do anything really, you've got to model it. You have to be the first model. The best way to do it is actually teach it. By teaching it, we model it. So teaching resilience, we have to know what that is for ourselves. There are a variety of techniques that I've spoken about before for adults. And there is a blog and a video already up on building resilience in yourself as an adult. So do go and check that out. Any of those techniques that I've talked about, most of them can be used with children. They can be adapted. Once you're using the techniques yourself, you feel comfortable with them, you can actually model them for yourself and for your children. So therefore, you can use them with kids. You can adapt them to use with the kids. Today, I'm only going to concentrate on 2 tips, and they are aimed at children. So the first one is, as I said, connection. We all need connection in our lives. We are social beings. We need that human connection. Not just online, but we definitely need it, one-to-ones. We need face-to-face. So the first thing I'd say to you, there's several topics on this this idea of connection and building connection that is vital for everybody, but also this for kids. It's really, really important for children because they may not be aware sometimes of the connections, and we sometimes have to point those out to them, and particularly positive ones. So the first one I'd say to you is the connection with you. Again, I've done a blog on this on how loads of ways you can build connection with your children. But you have to remember, this is the very first relationship they ever have. And this is actually where they learn to navigate the world around them. And that relationship needs to be safe and secure for them to do that, to be able to be willing to, go out and explore. They know they have your back. You have their back. They have your backup, and that they feel safe and secure in going out and exploring the world. If there's a problem, they can come to you. So that connection between you and them is a vital first step. And as I said, I've outlined them in another video, so just go and have a look at it. Go and check out the link below in the description, and you'll find a link to that on how you can start building connection with your children. I'm not going to concentrate on that one this morning because I have done such a detailed blog before. But there are other connections we need with, family, friends, wider society. And this is another way you can help them. Help them to build connection with others. Because, as I said, children aren't always aware of those that support them, that are positive for them, around them in their life. So we need to point those out. It's really, as parents, it's our job to be, telling them, letting them know, even in small ways, in small conversations, that, grandma, grandpa, auntie, uncle, my friend, whoever it is, said, "You're great. You did a really good job there. Well done." They need you to be pointing that out to them. An awful lot of time as adults, we can be talking to one another and we can be praising the child, but do we praise the child directly? And that's what we need to be doing. So, saying them, "Good job, well done." So anything at all that really we can do to also, build that connection with extended family and close friends is very important. And, letting them know the school, the teacher is proud of them as well, that they're doing a good job, reminding them of that. The only caveat I'd say here about this is the connections have to be positive. They must be positive. You again, as with an adult, you don't want negative vampires. So, we want positive connections, positive people surrounding our child, just like we do. That same team of positive supporters should also be supporting our children. So never force the connection as well. That's something you have to be very clued into. Like, if a child is resisting somebody, an adult, then you've got to say why. You've got to stop and ask them that question. What's going on? Maybe stop and ask yourself the question first. So never force a connection. Never force a connection. Trust your gut instinct here, but trust the child too. You can sit down and brainstorm, age appropriate. There are ways we can, build connections with others, natural interactions, family get-togethers, family dinners, family outings. There's a whole way we can do that. Outings with friends, meeting up with the school, the teacher, going to the parent-teacher meetings, things like that. There's lots of ways that we can help them build connection, but we can also sit down and brainstorm a list of how the child, would like to make time for connections that are important to them. And that's always the key here, because remember, one of the components of resilience is control. So they need to feel they're in control. And of course, the brainstorming list is going to be age appropriate. So, how do they want to make connections with the people that are important to them? Now, you want to keep them safe, I understand that, but you also need to, give them some autonomy here. It's a delicate balance. As always, we're always delicately balancing here as parents. So how do they want to do it? How do they want you to support them? Is the questions really you need to be asking there about building connections with others. The other thing around connection is helpful, being helpful, that help the child to be helpful towards others. Um, Volunteering can be very empowering. Helping around the home, helping others in their home, like grandma, grandpa, auntie and uncle, even a neighbor, or helping others in the community is, good. It's good for them to learn. Helping around the home, you're teaching them life skills. It's very important. The only thing I would say here is volunteering, of course, is going to be age appropriate. The other thing I would say to you is it cannot come with guilt and shame. That makes it toxic, and it's not proper volunteering. It's not them willing to do it themselves. It comes with, shame and guilt attached to it. Therefore, it isn't good. That's when it becomes negative, and it's not. You're not helping their confidence, and you're not helping them build resilience with that one. So brainstorming ideas with them again is a good way of doing that with them. Ways they would like to help within the home and outside the home. Now, in the home, they should be helping out in the home. As I said, it's life skills, but brainstorming for ideas of how they could be helpful towards others and in the community, age appropriate. The older they get, they can do a bit more. They can spread their wings a little bit more in terms of volunteering. But the whole emphasis here again must be on how they, the child or teen, would like to help, not what you feel they should be doing. So although they may have an interest in soccer, it doesn't mean that they have to volunteer to coach the little guys if they're a teenager. It shouldn't be forced on them to do that. If they want to do it and they're willing to help out and they enjoy doing it, that's one thing. But if we're forcing them to do it because it'll look good in your CV when you go to apply for jobs, that's not a good thing. That's bringing in the guilt and the shaming and all that into it, all the toxicity into it. We don't want that. So be very careful about, who's actually pushing this whole idea of, giving up their time and volunteering in whatever way. It doesn't have to be a formal volunteering, of course. In ways they can reach out to others and be helpful, because that is very important that we do that. The other thing on connections, and I think this, if nothing else, other than building your connection with you, if you take nothing else out of today, is letting them know it's okay to ask for help. That's vital for everybody to get that message, that it's okay to ask for help. Because we have to remember, resilience is never about going it alone and soldiering on. I heard a lot about this week in a group that I'm in, and this whole idea of soldiering on came up, and that's not resilience. Absolutely not resilience. Part of resilience and part of this idea of connection is to know and recognize that we need help. It's okay to ask for help. And children need, again, this is you modeling resilience, is part of that you would ask for help if you need it. Variety of ways. I mean, there are a variety of ways we can need help. But it's okay. The kids are getting the message that it's okay to ask for help. That, if I need support, I can reach out and ask for it. Whether that's with you, whether they say, no, I need to talk to somebody else, maybe, they learn eventually that they need other people in their lives to help them, then that's okay to ask the teacher, to ask, as we get older, we're going to ask other people. We're going to ask the GP, we're going to ask maybe for financial advice, we're going to maybe ask for legal advice. There's different professionals we might need to connect in with. That's okay. We do that. Everybody does that. Everybody needs to do that. There's no need to go it alone and this soldiering on. It takes a lot of courage. In fact, it takes more courage, I think, to actually reach out and ask for support and help at times. And kids need to get that message, that that's okay to take that courage and say, I'm struggling. I need help. I don't have to keep soldiering on. Even with homework, to say, can you help me with this? Go back to the teacher. I didn't understand that. To know it's okay to do that. And to make that when they know they have these positive supporters, and I've talked about positive supporters that we all need. There are 4 types, and I've talked about that before, so go check that video out if you need it. But we need to know that they're there for us, and the children then too need to know that they are there for them too. That these positive supporters are there for them too and can support them, and that's vital, that they can ask for help if they need it. So number 2 is I'm going to talk about this morning is actually optimism. And you know, it is a characteristic of resilience. It is something that we can nurture. Again, we have to nurture it inside ourselves too, and we have to model it. But it's about how we think. And, it's a lot about how we can reframe things, how we reframe our thinking. So let's get into that one. So, again, make sure you model optimism. If they can see and hear you being optimistic. Now, I'm not talking about cover things up. That's not a good idea. You don't cover things up. It's going to be, of course, age appropriate, what they're told. But we don't cover things up. It's important that they hear about the good points in life, not just the negative all the time. And there is an awful lot of exposure. And as I said at the start, I can see it even with my own grandchildren, that they are exposed more through social media in particular and through the media. They have more access. They're more easily accessible. That things can be very negative and that it's a negative spin. So we have to be able to show them that no, it's not just all about this stuff that's going on here in media and social media, and maybe there are some rough patch at home going on. There are positives too. And we need to focus on that as well. We need to remember to focus on that. So, watching how you phrase things, particularly about how you talk about yourself and other people, is important for them to see. So be careful, because they're always watching and always listening to what we're doing. With this idea of optimism, what I would do here is I would start from what the child already knows. So resilience is about getting back up after facing a challenge. You can't avoid the feelings, the grief, the sadness, any pain or mistakes that might have been made. It's not about that. It's about being able to stop, take a breath, reflect, and learn, and then get back up on our track again. So a good way to kind of teach that is to, meet them where they already are. So what do they know? What are they already good at? How are they already handling setbacks? So when we understand how they do that, then we can help them learn. We can help them move on and learn. So what I'm going to talk about here is, accepting change, setting goals, realistic ones, and reframing the idea of negative thinking, reframing our idea of failure. So that's really what I'm going to talk about in regards to optimism here. I wanted to point out. So the first one is accepting change. Change is inevitable. It's happening all the time. But it's a hard one for adults, and it's a scary one for adults. It's harder still for kids if you really stop and think about it. But it is an inevitable part of life, and it doesn't have to be that scary. Keeping the lines of communication open here is the first thing I'd say to you here. That's going to be vital. It's always vital in building connection as well. So having conversations around change can be very helpful here. But also using examples, real life examples, or examples if they were happen to see something on television or in a movie, using those to bring up the topic of conversation, but pointing out that change doesn't have to be negative. And that's the point about optimism here, is that you can point out that change is an inevitable part of life, but it doesn't have to be negative. You know, if you look at it, even the seasons around us, we're in autumn at the moment. The seasons are changing. You know, people move house all the time. People move school all the time. You know, you move class each year. Um, you know, you move up. You grow. So you can have positive discussions and highlight that there are positivities to change. Sorry, I'm talking too much. I always know I'm talking too much when I start coughing. Um, the next idea would be reframe the idea of failure. And this is very important because this brings in the idea that there is possibility, even though something may have not gone the way you wanted it. Maybe you did make a mistake. But if you can reframe it, you know, and understand that making a mistake is what makes us human, it happens to everybody. Um, but, you know, we can reflect on it. Um, So some I have put some questions into the blog, and you know you can have a look at them. But what went well? Because something will always have gone right. Sometimes when something goes wrong, we focus too much on the negative outcome, but something will have gone right here. And we need to recognize that just as much if we're going to build optimism. As we are what went wrong. So what didn't go right? That's okay. What didn't go right? Because when we acknowledge, you know, that what didn't go right, we can learn from it. We can acknowledge, was there any external factors that was a contribution to it? So what can I learn? That's another question. What can we learn from this? Be a team with your child and say, okay, what can we learn together? What can we learn from this? Um, you know, do they need to ask for advice? Do they need to reach out for that connection and ask for help? So brainstorming ideas here around, okay, they messed up. What can I do here? What can I do that's going to make it better the next time? And come up with ideas, a plan that they can put together, create some action steps. If this happens again, you have this. So you're giving them a sense of security as well by saying, I have a plan of action that I can take, some actionable steps that I can actually take here if something goes wrong again, if this something similar to this goes wrong again, and I can fix it. So we're already learning, and we're already learning that it's okay to make a mistake. We're all human, and we're learning that we do have backup because we've got, you know, mum and dad is there to back me up. I have other supporters in my life that can back me up, and I have some actionable steps that I can take the next time that can do it. And then the last thing, and this is I think the most vital part to create the optimism here, is don't, you know, get them to move on. Don't dwell on the negative side of what happened. Get them to move on and move on quickly, because if you look at anybody who's successful, who you know, who's very confident, they are people that they don't dwell on it. That, what can I learn from this, and then we're moving on. We're not dwelling here, and that's very important. And the last point I'll make this morning is show them how to set realistic goals. They're positive goals, realistic goals for them. Talk about, you know, how to set positive goals in their lives. What are positive goals? What are ways that they could do it? They can do. What goals can they do? That's going to make, you know, give them a better chance of success. Again, this is about meeting them where they're at. What do they already know? What do they want to achieve? And meeting them, you know, what small steps can we take to help build success here that you want to reach that goal. You know, so show them how to get organized, how to get more focused, how to stay on track with their goals. That takes a little bit of planning, and if you don't know how to do that, I have done a number of videos on time management that can help them. This, you know, if they get those kind of skills, if they get those good time management skills, organization, particularly around schoolwork, I'm thinking they really, and how to set goals around schoolwork, you know, it does help motivate them. I have a backup plan. I have somebody I can talk to. We, you know, mum, dad, or whoever it is in their life will help them, you know, break down goals. And this is vital for the older teens, particularly coming up to end of year exams and final year exams when they're going to exit secondary school and on into college, that they have those abilities. Now I've done a video on that called The Keys to Success for Teens. If you want it, again, it'll be linked through in the description below, so have a look at that. So that's it for this morning. Some of the detail from the blog. It was quite lengthy, I know that, I apologize. But I'm trying to include as much in this video as I can from the blog to make it as accessible as possible. I am also going back over all my old blogs. I've been creating podcasts of those, so you know, you can do check those out as well. So you can actually just listen to them. I try to keep them to under 15 minutes. And you know, you can listen back to those old blogs that might be of help to you. So I'm going to leave it there. Thank you for watching. And I leave a link to everything I talked about is in the description below. All the link will be in the description below. Check it out. I'll see you next week. New blog on Monday as always. Thank you for those who are watching live, and thank you to those who watch, and I know a lot of people watch on replay here and on YouTube. Thank you very much for watching, and I will talk to you all again soon.